we should do is we should have a contest, and whoever can answer this question first on our YouTube channel is, who does Deacon look like? Which character does Deacon look like? And you should immediately be able to know that first person to answer.
You have a pretty legit doppelganger.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, on to what we're really here for.
Yes. To see him in a Speedo.
To see me in a Speedo.
I know that's, you guys, that's everyone, what is everyone saying? That's what everyone's saying. When are we going to see Deacon in a Speedo? I'm like, I'm trying the best I can.
I was like,
I can't, you know.
I should have gotten a spray tan.
Force him.
So, kind of that first triathlete like prep, like
Mm-hmm.
we talked about it briefly this week, that the biggest thing, and this is something that I am definitely a person that is kind of like, oh, I'm just going into it.
Right.
I can go through a ton, and I even like had to kind of adjust some things this week, realizing jumping back into running, even though I know I have great endurance, I know how to run a lot because in the military did a lot of endurance work and a lot of running, but I haven't, and it realized my body's not adjusted to that. Especially even trying to run like a treadmill. One day I ran on a treadmill and I was wrecked. My hips hurt so bad versus running just outside.
Outside, yeah.
And I was like, man, I've got to really actually pay attention to what I'm doing. What are your recommendations to someone like that's not necessarily coming in and paying for a coach or whatever, but like, all right, volume wise, where's a good place to start?
Well,
and how to mix it in throughout the week.
So as a coach, the first thing I ask my client is when their race is. So if the race is,
Friday.
let's say, 12 weeks out.
Friday.
No, not Friday, but 12 weeks out. Okay, or 24 weeks out, or 32, or 36, or 1 year. That's the first question. Second question is, what's the distance? You know, are you doing a sprint, Olympic, half Ironman, full Ironman? And then third question is, you know, what's your goal? First response I always get is to finish, and that's okay. That's a good place to start. And for some people, it is a really good place to start.
Like that's what I'm saying, but that's not what's in my head at all.
But that's what so people want to finish, and then they reevaluate their goals as the training progresses. So let's say we have somebody and they're going to do their first Olympic, and it's 12 weeks out, and they want to finish. So that's what they come up to me, or that's what they think in their mind if they're not going to hire a coach. Starting where your original fitness is a good place to start. So if you are already, you know, biking a couple times a week, and you're already running, you know, here or there a week, and you might get in the pool once or twice a week, then you've got probably a little bit of a solid foundation that you can then build on. But if you're coming from zero, then you need to build a foundation. If you think about if you want to build a house, I mean, what you put that house on is really important to how the structure of that house is going to hold up, or that training is going to hold up until you get to your pinnacle, which is your race day. So it's...
And I want to add a caveat, because so someone like me, where I've done a lot of this stuff, and I know it, but I haven't done it.
Right. But that's
and
what
so
I'm saying.
like I'm like, holy, like everything just hurt. I'm like, oh, this is not just starting where I used to be or whatever.
Right, but you haven't been, I mean, biking a couple times a week or running a couple times a week. You've been training, you know, in the gym, and you've been, you know, snowboarding and, you know, mountain biking here or there, and motocross, or, you know, and doing lots of other, you're very fit, so you have a good fitness, but not triathlon fitness. We talked about that in the last session.
And that's something that I always love hearing people like, oh, like, and I love CrossFit. I'm a huge fan of it, but like, oh, they're the fittest on earth. They're fit for their sport.
Right. They're
Come
fit
on,
for CrossFit.
like that's it's you're in fitness. I believe is something that is like we improve your ability to adapt to other things, but you have to be fit for your sport.
Right.
Like what is fit for a triathlete is going to be totally different than what is fit for a mixed martial artist or a football player.
Right.
And they can be incredibly fit, but a skill set, I guess, is kind of the thing that really changes.
Exactly.
Is being efficient.
Right, and also dealing with the distance and technique. You know, swimming is like, it's very similar to golf. technique rules.
Which way to go, Tiger? Awesome.
What, 4 years it's been?
Dude,
Or longer than
like
that?
15 years.
It's right, 14 years. It's been 14 years since a national championship. Wow, nice job. What did come back?
No, Tiger Woods.
That's, I know, that's what I'm saying. It's been a
National
really long
championship?
time.
Oh yeah, it's in the world title thing.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, no,
you
it
guys
has
can
been.
comment in
Like,
that
lots
and
of
like
that.
correct us, because
But
I don't
I just know it was long.
I don't play golf. Anyway, but swimming is technique is huge. So if your technique is lacking in the pool, that's something you're going to have to work on. And also, fitness is important in the pool. I think some people actually focus a little too much on technique and don't focus enough on the fitness of the swim in the pool.
Like fitness pizza in my mouth.
No. It's going to be a long summer. Anyway, so building that foundation for a athlete who is a dad or a mom and has a job and wants to still have a social life and can only fit in approximately, I hear most athletes are between 10 and 12 hours or 8 and 12 hours a week. I would highly recommend for an Olympic distance athlete or sprint, 2 swims, 2 bikes, and 2 runs. The beginning of the week is usually speed work. The middle of the week is more like tempo or endurance work, and the end of the week is more race specific work. And then putting those workouts in the week, similar to how your race is going to be. So you do like Monday a swim, Tuesday a bike, Wednesday a run, maybe take Thursday off, and then Friday a swim, Saturday a bike, and then Sunday a run, or Sunday I do a brick workout with a client. And that's a great way to build that foundation. Then as you get closer to the race, the workouts will more represent the race that you're about to do. So you'll increase in intensity and or duration as you get closer to the race.
That's something that I've always told a lot of athletes, is to make sure that their training on the weekends is as close to time and everything as when the race is. Like with fighters, we used to have to, like if we knew they were going to be fighting at 10 o'clock at night, we didn't want them doing all their training in the morning.
Yep.
Because then all of a sudden you go to the fight and you're like, I'm usually asleep by now.
Right.
Like, no, you actually need to, and the mental and the mental and physical side of it is huge. But so I love to hear that there is that cycle, because the weekend is when you're racing. So you need to, you may not even realize, most people probably don't realize the mental side of things, of the repetition and, you know, being prepared for that and knowing what your body and how you're going to wake up, how you feel, like how long does it take you to get ready. And
right.
I'm a slow starter, like
Slow in a lot of things.
so. Like I know for me, like I was always like the second and third and later rounds that were a lot better for me when I was a fighter, and because I had more endurance base of stuff, and so it's learning things like that, so you know what to expect at the start line. Finding other people to ride with too. I can't imagine that going and riding with people for the first time at the race is a great idea.
It is not a good idea. No. Don't, and that's the golden rule is never do anything new on race day, ever. Like don't try new shoes or new socks or new, not a new fuel or goo or something that you have not tried yet. Do not do that. Don't buy a brand new helmet and wear it the first time on race day. That is the golden.
Yeah, it's like for me, I know that I'm going to be training and riding with people throughout the summer that are way better than me, and so that's just the self-discipline of not trying to ride their race, and why it really has benefits to carrying over to race days, being used to riding with people that may be stronger than you and you want to be competitive with, but learning where your range is. And because again, you get in that gate or starting line, all right, let's go, and then all of a sudden you're done. Like if you don't know how to control that initial thing and know, like, hey, this is my race to do, and that's ultimately, I feel like with a lot of endurance athletes, it's the ones that are super disciplined and knowing that are the ones that have the best race.
Because they're racing their own race.
Because they know where they need to be.
They already know where they're going to be. Like they know what their swim is going to be. They already know the time. They're not trying to race the guy next to them because they know that this is their pace for the swim. They know that this is their pace or their power or their heart rate that's supposed to be on the bike. And then they, again, with the run, they know this is their pace for the run. I'll tell my athletes, say, like in a half Ironman, we break it up into 5Ks. So we run the first 5K at a slight below race pace or at race pace that we've already decided. Second 5K, we decide how is things going, how the fueling is going, the stomach is okay. Third 5K, again, looking back and then the last 5K, if things have gone really well, just go, yeah.
I'll never forget Major Ortoli. Like, again, everyone always gave me a hard time because I was a big dude. Like, even in the military, I was 250 pounds, but I had great endurance. And Major Ortoli was just this competitive dude. And for the longest time, like, we would run together, and he would just talk to me. And finally, when I was like, why do you always I'll start asking random stuff. He's like, because it messes up your breathing, and then I can go ahead. I'm like, what the hell?
You thought he was being nice.
I was just like, oh my God. I was like, it totally did. Because that's why I was talking to him about it, because it would piss me off. Because I'm like, so funny. And he'd be that, I'm like, and that was a part of his whole thing. I was just like,
but he shouldn't have gave it away.
I was like, touche.
He shouldn't have gave it away. As soon as he gave it away, then you knew. Then you knew what was happening.
Well, I was actually leaving. I was asked him that, and I was like, dude, I just got to know, like, towards the end of our run, like, why would you always ask me questions? He was like, because I knew I could get ahead of you once you messed up breathing for about a mile. And I was like,
yeah, you could try that strategy in the race. Come up next to somebody, ask them how they're doing.
I used to do that
shoot
fighting.
ahead.
I would like talk to them.
While they're fighting?
Like while I was fighting, yeah.
What do you talk about while you're fighting?
I was like, hey, don't hit me too hard.
Just to kind of psych him out, like you were afraid or something?
Like I had a guy one time that he was about to shoot into me, and I just said, wait. And he looked up, and I just called him a quick shot. He was like, he looked at the referee. He was like, did you hear him say this? He was like, yeah, I heard him, but why? Like, what are you doing? That dude followed me around for months trying to fight me, and like, finally,
he wanted it.
Oh, he was so mad at me, and we actually are still to this day really good friends. But it was really funny.
You said a little psychology.
I'd walk outs like, "Do you really want to hurt me?" Was like my walkout song a lot of times. And
really? That's hilarious. Doesn't know like Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, no.
He just kind of came out like all humble and like timid and shy. And
yeah, no. The first time I didn't have a walkout song, and my coach just put on "It's Raining Men." And so I'm walking, and that was the fight that got like really pissed, and they were just like,
"Oh my God, that's pretty funny."
Like, okay, sorry, we just really didn't think you were gonna take it serious. So yeah, all right. So preparation is huge, and you always hear that like, practice like you fight, and to an extent that is true. I think something that you've probably seen a lot of, I know I have, is a lot of people trying to do too much testing versus training. Like they're like, oh, I'm going to push myself every day, versus getting that game plan and trusting that process of, because a lot of times it's like, oh man, that really wasn't that hard. I could have gone. Again, your focus is that foundation above all else, right?
And then the different, like I said, the different types of training. Some workouts are for speed, some workouts are for tempo, and some workouts are more race specific. So, and if you do every workout, like you said, just balls to the wall, sooner or later you're going to blow up. You
may be going 100%, but you are not working 100%. I see so many people working that like gray zone.
Shrinks out,
Like they're in that 75 to like 85, where they're not going hard enough to work on speed.
Right.
They're not actually going low enough
to build their capacity,
base.
Right.
But they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I know you're giving 110%. That's great, which is not physically possible. You cannot give 110%.
Yes, you can.
No, it's 100%.
No, there's 110.
That means you were holding back then.
Right, but the 10% comes from here. That's where it comes from. There's studies done. It's true. It's a true story. Look it up.
Google it.
Google it. Can I give 110%? What does that mean? 100% means is what you thought you had. 110 is that extra 10% you didn't think you had. So 110 exists. I mean, just because
it's just like negative temperatures.
Well, that's real.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make
sense. It does make sense.
It
makes perfect sense.
How do you go below zero?
Well, it's like negative numbers. Like you have less, it's like if you're in debt, right? It's negative. Of course you can go below zero. That's a temperature. That's reality. Why are we having this discussion?
These are the things that
are we
keep
going to do wetsuits today? Or
all right. So, gear-wise, what honestly, like when I started to talk to you about this, like wetsuit never crossed my mind. What is that? What most races are? Is that what?
I don't know. I wouldn't say most. It depends on the temperature of the water. I actually should have looked this up exactly, the exact temperatures. But depending on the race that you're doing and where it is, there's certain temperatures of the water which actually wetsuits are required. And then temperatures where a wetsuit is allowed. And then there's some temperatures where a wetsuit is not allowed at all.
Why would it not be allowed?
It's too hot. It's too warm.
So just
The water temperature is too warm.
So there's not like a buoyancy
No.
asset to it.
No. In triathlon, it's based on temperature. In fact, I have an athlete today who just finished her half Ironman down in Haines City, Florida, and they announced the day before that it was not going to be wetsuit legal. And there's always a possibility that when they take the temperature the next morning, that the water is just cold enough, and it wasn't. So there was no wetsuits allowed in that race this morning, and so she was disappointed about that. But she did well. She got 13th in her age group. So there are races where wetsuits are not allowed, and then races which they are. So it just depends on the venue and mostly the temperature of the water, obviously.
All right.
So, but I do recommend if wetsuits are allowed, I highly recommend wearing a wetsuit because of the buoyancy factor and the slipstream. And I don't know if we can do anything about this though. I don't know if we can wetsuit that. I don't know.
Well, if I
Coefficient.
if I don't get a world record, that's gonna. Oh, it's the beard.
Right. It was the drag coefficient on the beard.
How
Because
many-
they'll have a cap on, but maybe we can do like a chin strap cap. Like something that kind of pulls around. I don't know if that's allowed. We could tie it down, maybe braid it, like just do like a French braid all the way, kind of like a boxer braid this way. We could figure, we'll try that
These
next
are
week
things
maybe.
that haven't even crossed my mind.
Yeah, it's okay. There's guys like you who race with it, kind of that situation going on there.
All right, so you've been telling me that these things are kind of hard to get into, and I guess that was kind of half the fun of this.
Mm-hmm.
Is we talked about I've surfed in wetsuits and stuff like that, but these are not.
No.
So you have some.
Yeah, we have. I brought both a sleeveless and a sleeved wetsuit.
Is this the one over there?
Well, no, yours is right here, the bigger one. That's
Oh.
the little one.
Oh.
That's mine. But yeah, I do see a lot in local races, especially that people will show up with their brother-in-law's, water skiing wetsuit. Do not wear that. Do not, and I repeat, do not wear your sister-in-law's or your friend's water skiing wetsuit. That it just will fill up with water, and you're dragging all this water with you as you're trying to swim, and it will actually weigh you down, and it will just make it for a very horrible swim experience. If you do not want to purchase a wetsuit, then I highly recommend there's an online website. If you just look under renting wetsuits, for swimming, you can actually rent a wetsuit. A lot of local tri shops also rent out a wetsuit. You can rent one out. Yeah.
Huh.
But we have one that you can try on today.
So yeah, I'm gonna try on a wetsuit.
Yeah. So.
All right.
All right. You ready? You want to do sleeveless or sleeved? You want to go full Monty, or you want to do?
I'm open, whatever.
You're open, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's do full sleeved.
Okay.
Okay. So we're doing the full sleeved wetsuit because it's the hardest to get into. So you might as well so this way we can show everybody how to get in and out of the wetsuit. So just before we start, so the last time this wetsuit was worn was probably a couple of years ago. It's my husband's. And what I did earlier today was I soaked it in the tub. Something you make sure you want to do before, if you haven't worn your wetsuit.
That's actually nice.
Right, it's super nice. If you haven't worn your wetsuit in a while, like in 6 months or something like that, I highly recommend soaking the wetsuit in the tub at least once. It's kind of like a dry sponge. If you've ever seen a dry sponge, it's hard as a rock, so it's not very pliable. So you want to soak it in the tub. Just push it down, make sure it gets all wet, and then obviously hang it out to dry inside out and not in direct sunlight. Okay, and don't leave it in your hot car. Okay, so we're going to turn the wetsuit right side out.
All right. You guys have sunglasses. You might want to put them on.
So we have a couple of things to help Deacon dome his wetsuit. Yeah, well, that's for chafing, and that's the only one I have. Yeah, no, it's not deodorant. We have a couple things to help Deacon put his wetsuit on. See, no Speedos. You chickened out. Where's the Speedos?
I've got this is like a Speedo.
Okay, it's Speedo-ish. Anyway,
It's really just to fight it.
I have seen at races people bring these plastic bags to put, to put over their heads, over their feet. Because if you have, well, you don't have big feet.
No.
But if you have big feet, or you have, for the size of your wetsuit, it helps slip the wetsuit on. I don't use these. It's just one more thing to forget or blow away or lose or whatever. So, hold on. No, that's the wrong, you don't put the zipper in the front.
Oh.
Yeah, please, don't put the zipper in the front. The zipper goes in the back. So before you step in though, so instead of using the plastic bags, so we're gonna use Tri-Glide. Now you're gonna put the legs on first. This is gonna be, sit down, maybe get a glass of wine, sit back and relax. We're going to use Tri-Glide to help put the wetsuit on, because not only will it help get the wetsuit on, but that when he exits transition, it will also help get the wetsuit off.
How many people have had like a spaz out stuck in a wetsuit?
Stuck in a wetsuit, it happens.
Are
It
you
happens.
allowed to get help?
Yes. Ironman and half Ironman. Well, Ironman and some other races, like higher end races, have strippers. There's strippers in transition. Not strippers, they help you strip your wetsuit. See? I knew where he was going with that. And he couldn't even say anything, could he? Because he couldn't think of anything to say that was not rated R. So.
It's like, where do you put your dollars?
Where do you put the dollars? No, so yes, a lot of times in the bigger races, Ironman especially, they have strippers that help you take off your wetsuit, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to spray his feet and his ankles. Here, come. You can just put it down. Okay, here we go. And his lower leg. You got hairy legs, dude. Yeah, shave those.
What? No.
Okay,
not
and then
happening.
that's careful, it's slippery on the floor now, okay? So don't fall down trying to put on your wetsuit. Okay, and then also the forearms, all right?
I did shave my arms.
You did?
Yeah.
When?
Like yesterday.
That's one day?
I mean, like with a level 1 clipper. That's trim.
Okay, all right, and let me get you a towel just so you don't slip. Hold on. Oh, I don't want you cracking your head. So, yeah, here, watch out. I just don't want you to crack your head. Okay, there we go. All right, so the first thing he's going to do is going to put that wetsuit on, get his feet in all the way. Seeing how it slips on so perfectly. Don't rip it with your fingernails, by the way. Don't put a hole in my wetsuit.
Is that a...
There you go. Okay, awesome. All right, now don't pull it up too far yet. Okay, pull it up a little bit. Okay. And then the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that all this gathering is pulled all the way up to your crotch. There you go. There you go. It even has like, told you where your knee's supposed to be. And let's bring this up a little further. There you go, right there. And there you go. Awesome. Oh, this thing fits you like a glove. There you go. And then get it past your butt if you can.
That's big booty.
Okay. And then before we put it all the way up, we want to see where the crotch is. We want to make sure that there's no space here at all. So you really want to kind of pull it up and here, watch out, pull it up in the back. Ready? All right, got it pulled up in the back. All right, and then so when you put the arm in, you want to put it in like this. A lot of people will put the arm in like that. Yeah, you want to put the arm in like that, so that way you stretch that out all the way. So it's up, yeah, and then get that hand all the way through. Now these Roka suits have a little bit of a wrist thing there, so it's a little tighter on the wrist. There you go. Just what you're doing now. Yeah, pulling that arm. Probably want to pull it up just a little bit more. Yeah. That's it. There you go. Good. Okay. Watch out for the beard. Okay. And then let's do the other side. Yeah, same thing. Don't knock over my helmets. There you go. Let's get that on the underside. Yeah. That's for grabbing the water there. Nice. Nice. Okay. And then it would help if you had someone a little taller. So you reach under the armpit, right, and kind of just pull from the inside, right? Because obviously you swim with your arms, so you want to make sure that you have enough range of motion, right, through the shoulder, through the shoulder, right? So you don't have any space underneath the armpit. There's a little bit here, so I'm going to pull you up a little bit more. There you go. So no spaces under the armpits, and we already checked the crotch, so that's good. And then you want them to pull the suit together, and then when someone's zipping you up, you squeeze your shoulder blades together just a little bit. There you go. I zip you up, and then you're good to go. Look at that. That wasn't so hard.
I feel like I'm in the movie Tron.
You do look like you're in the movie Tron. The only thing you need now is like a helmet. I don't have a Tron helmet.
I'm gonna go to Walmart.
You're gonna go to Walmart and get a Tron helmet.
So, hey.
Yeah, I dare you to leave the house like that.
So walk in and introduce myself to the neighbors. Hey guys, I'm moving in next door. Thanks for- Why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah, but no, it seems to fit you pretty well, right? It is pretty comfy,
Way
right?
comfier than like other wetsuits
That you've worn before.
they're like really thick.
Yeah. So biggest complaint we get as a coach, what you're about to do right now, is the neck. So a lot of people, they hate it because it's choking them. So what you would do is, I can't want to do it, but yeah, you grab it there you go, right? And pull it up a little bit, and then pull it up a little bit more. There you go, a little bit more. That's right, a little bit more. There you go. So a lot of times what you don't realize is that if you're in the water and you're constantly upright, the suit is pulling down on you. And because it starts to pull down on you, then you think that you can't breathe. But if you stay horizontal in the water, and once the Jordanelle gets a little warm enough, we'll go outside and we'll actually use this in the water. We'll go over a lot of that. But the wetsuit is supposed to fit tight. It's supposed to feel like it's a little too small. So
I can see why like people would be freaked out about that. Like, I mean I've been choked
we
a lot in
can't
jiu-jitsu,
see, but if you look underneath the beard here, you can see how tight it is. Yeah, but it is. It can be a little unnerving to have that the wetsuit touching your neck.
Like,
Yeah, especially if you're in the water and you're like, it can be really unnerving to have that. So, and then yeah, you're
freak
good.
out if you breathe through your nose.
Mm-hmm. So I think we should time Deacon on taking off the wetsuit. I think we should time you. All right, let me get my timer. Hold on. Let's see how fast. What? You can't start yet. Hold on. Wait, let me get my timer. Okay, all right, you ready?
Somebody send a picture of my mom.
Set, and go. Okay, you're racing through transition. You're coming running out of the water. Okay, you see a guy next to you. Don't wear my suit. And he's like running past you. You're running up to your bike. We're at 12 seconds. How fast is it going to take him to get that off? Okay, because he's doing it that way, it's taking a little longer, but that's okay.
I was trying to be nice
20
to your suit.
seconds! 20 seconds, that's pretty good.
Smooth is fast.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Everything looked really good. The only thing I would change is that when you do get out of the suit, remember, when you're all wet, the suit's a little bit more sticky to you. That's its job, right?
Like
Yeah.
step
Yeah, you want to step on it and pull your foot, step on it and pull your foot till the ankle is right at your foot, and then you get your finger there and rip it off. Okay, you can put your
I'll
clothes
put my
back
pants
on.
back
Put your pants back on. So that was good. That was excellent. Nice job for the first time wearing a swimsuit.
Good coaching.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. That's all it takes is good coaching and practice. Lots of practice. But no, honestly, tri-glide, if you don't have it, definitely get it. Even if you don't have like big hands or big feet or hairy-ish arms or legs, I highly recommend getting tri-glide. And then what we didn't put on, even though it says for her, I don't know why it says that, because it goes on my neck. It doesn't go, yeah. But it's for chafing.
Oh, that's totally what I was thinking.
No, it's for chafing. It's not deodorant. It's for chafing. So you put it on your neck.
Never thought about it.
Because some people have issues with the wetsuit wearing at their neck.
I was just thinking about the running and the biking and the chafing.
Yeah, but there's different stuff for that. Can
know.
you imagine? How are you going to get this on in
I don't know. I didn't never thought about it chafing on my neck.
Okay, well that's why I'm here,
Yeah.
and we're gonna help you through this. Right. So, anyway, I do highly recommend getting something chafing for your neck and Tri-Glide, absolutely for sure. Yeah. There you go.
Not too bad.
See, now you know how to put on a wetsuit and take it off quickly. 20 seconds. That was
Smooth.
That
Smooth
was
as
pretty
fast.
cool. But he wasn't running, because like when you're in the swim, the idea is you come out of the water, and as soon as you come out of the water, you start
Hands out,
zipping off the wetsuit. You take your arms off, and you're still running to your bike. So you actually get to your bike with the wetsuit half off. And once you get to the bike, that's when you strip off the legs. That's how it's done. But we'll go over.
Yeah, don't try to do the legs while you're running.
No, because you'll trip and fall.
Smooth is fast.
Yes.
So, what's ahead for you? We talked a little bit before we started that you're having to make some adjustments because we are still getting feet of snow.
Oh my God, I'm so sick of it.
So we're gonna probably be doing a FaceTime.
Next week I'm going to go to St. George and train because I just spent 2.5 hours on the trainer today, and it was pretty brutal. And that was after 3,500 in the pool this morning. And the pool I don't mind, but I'd like to be able to I actually haven't even worn my wetsuit yet. I bought a brand new wetsuit for this particular race because the water's supposed to be pretty cold. So I want to be able to test that wetsuit. I can test it in the pool, but I like to do it in open water. So I'll be down in St. George this weekend, swimming, biking this weekend, this coming weekend.
All right.
So we'll have to FaceTime it.
So
Yeah.
this is the real first intro of Beginner's Guide to Try.
Right, beginner's guide to try. I like that. I like how that rolls
And,
off the tongue.
And actually, while you're down there this weekend, we had talked about maybe talking about nutrition and stuff, but there was a lot of good points that were brought up today that we will touch on more. And the value of, again, I get a lot of parents that have asked me for like mountain bike kids and things like, oh, my kid has a big race this week. What should he be doing? I'm like, don't change anything. Like even if he's been on something horrible, like don't change anything.
Yeah.
That's just like your 12-week race prep. Your nutrition and what you're going to be doing there should be figuring all that in because it takes that long to kind of adapt to it and help. So your point about not adding anything new on race day is huge, especially not knowing how it could affect your gut and stuff like that. So we will touch on some stuff like that, some myths that you hear a lot about. I really want to ask your opinion about pickle juice that everybody raves about. I don't really buy it, but all the other different things between gels and that people use them, will just kind of give you guys a guide too. But I think we both really would emphasize, don't get stuck on what you do. What do I do during the race? Everything is about what you're doing up till the race. With nutrition and fueling and everything, you should be doing that so that come race day,
there's no questions.
There's nothing changed at all.
No, nothing changes. I mean, unless there's like a huge temperature change. You were expecting, 90% humidity and, 85 degrees, and it's not that, then hydration will change a little, but beyond that, or if the swim didn't happen or something, like that, or the bike course got cut short. But you're right, mostly it stays exactly the same.
Preparation and you want, I know for me, my main thing was, I don't know if I ever told you this.
Probably not.
So, I went to college on a tennis scholarship.
If someone had asked me that, said, hey, I bet you $100 that Deacon used to play college, let alone get a scholarship to college, or play tennis and get a scholarship, I would have been like, I'll bet you $100.
So I went to high school, like Palmer and Voluntary Tennis Academy, all through high school. And
you got to insert a picture of you in tennis shorts. I have to.
So I still play. I actually went and played in a league in the Salt Lake City.
You do? Oh my gosh.
And they always bring me in because they're like, oh, who's the homeless guy? And they're like, oh, we'll bet against him.
Well, I would have never guessed in a million years. You're Army and MMA and.
So tennis was like the biggest thing that I would say was an attribute to being a fighter because of the eye-hand coordination. No one was hitting me as fast as the tennis ball could come at me.
Okay. Okay.
So I had great eye-hand coordination, which was why it was so easy to like train. And I always grew up doing like kickboxing and stuff like that. But yeah. So what my point was talking about like fighting and things and in preparation that like my walk out was to a fight or even onto like a tennis match was extremely dialed in to what worked for me, and it was just second nature. And the value of that, like you want to control as much of your environment as you can, because there's so many things that are going around that you have no control over. So mentally being in that spot of like, hey, I know I can control what I'm doing right now up until that starting gun or whatever. And
Well, just again, really quick to track back on that though, on that note, in triathlon, there's a lot of elements you can't control. Like
Right.
today, my athlete, there was no wetsuit, and she was banking on that wetsuit, and because she knows the swim is the hardest mentally for her, because she has a tendency to panic in the water, and the wetsuit is almost like not a security blanket, but it makes her feel more secure because she can float better in the water. And so as soon as that that changed, she had to change her mindset to adapt to that. And I think the one thing you can control in any aspect of your life is how you react
and
to what happens. Yeah.
And like that's why I guess my ADD, where that was coming from, was like nutrition is something that you can control. So even in
90% of the time,
you know, you mostly have control over what you've done up until that the day before, and that's something that I've always liked to be like, hey, well, look, you know that this isn't what we expected, but look at all these other things that are still the exact same, just to try to trick people into focusing.
Right.
If they are ones that, like for me, I'm one of those people. I'm like, all right, shit, stuff's changed. Everybody else is freaking out. I'm like, now I've got a better chance.
I do have to say really quick though, I was in the Miami Half Ironman, and we were coming out of transition, and when you do the Miami Half, you have to do a bunch of little side streets until you get on like the main drag, where it's a very wide, like 3-lane highway out and back. And we were going through these little side streets, and we were coming over this brick little crosswalk. There's a guy in front of me, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 bike lengths, and he hit the crosswalk, it was maybe this wide, and both of his bottles flew out of his bike. Both of his fueling bottles gone. And I'm trying to yell, hey, hey, hey. I felt so bad, because when that guy goes back and he reaches back and he's like, and they're not there.
At first I thought this was going through, he crashed.
No.
And honestly, like, that's way worse.
Yeah, well, losing your nutrition.
To go there and like, I can't imagine to find, like, you have that doubt and you reach back and you're just like.
Well, and I was watching last year's Ironman World Championships and watching Lucy Charles. So any of you who know Ironman and know Lucy Charles, she comes out of Hawi and she's going down the Queen K. And right before after they hit that turn and they're headed down, they get their special needs bags with their special fuel in it. And a lot of the pros will put their extra bottle in there so they don't have to carry it going up Hawi. And you see the helicopter of Lucy Charles. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. The helicopter's over Lucy Charles, and you see her grab her bag and fight to get the bottle out and throw the bag to the side, and you see her try to stick it in the back of her bike, and it falls down. And you're just like, no! And of course she just goes, because she's racing, and Daniela's like right there on her tail. I'm like, you'll know who these people are. Anyway, so and you're like, gosh, was that the reason that she, came in second and didn't win? Probably not, but still, as an athlete, you see her lose her fueling bottle, and you're like, no. So, even the pros, even the pro athletes have to, change gears, when something doesn't go right.
As Confucius said, shit happens.
I don't think he said that. I don't think Confucius said that. Look it up. I don't think Confucius said that.
Sounds better if he did.
I think we should end on that, because I don't think Confucius said that.
So yeah, guys, hit us up with any questions. Anything that you want us to touch on as we go on through this, and we will see you guys next time.
Yeah, next week.